how to build unshakable confidence as a man. If you want to find and keep the right woman, you have to have 10 out of 10 level confidence. In this video, I'm going to share practical strategies with you that the mainstream and society has consciously withheld from you. Strategies that you can use to be your most authentic and most confident self. Number one, there's 4 sources of confidence we're going to look at. The first one is state, your mental and your emotional state. I learned this from one of the best psychologists in Germany. Confidence is not something you either have or don't. It's something you can learn to turn on in a moment. And we have not been given the tools to do that. You rely on liquid confidence, or you rely on social confidence. In other words, in your work, in your business, that's where you feel very confident. Maybe you go rock climbing. Maybe you run a high rocks. Maybe you do jiu-jitsu. In that environment, you feel very confident because you have an expertise, because you have domain-specific confidence. But when it comes to women, you just don't have it. Or you have a 6 or a 7 out of 10 level confidence, but with the women that you actually like, that's where the insecurities manifest themselves. And it is absolutely an impossibility of life that she won't lose interest in you if you start exhibiting these micro signals of being a little bit too emotionally reactive to her than she is to you. So, what can you do to turn confidence on whenever, wherever you need to? The first thing you got to do is change the way you use your body, your physiology. I'm going to use Tony Robbins' model of his triad to illustrate this point. But Gunther Schmidt in Germany, that psychologist, who's an absolute legend, who was a direct student of Milton Erickson, by the way, the founder of hypnotherapy, he explains it as well. He's very similar models. You have to use your body in a way that produces certainty, because we all know that once we feel confident, we walk around different. Once you close a deal in your business, you got a promotion, you actually went on a successful date, you made love to an attractive woman, something good happened, you got some win, you walk around different, your shoulders are back, you're breathing different. Now, here's the interesting thing, and this is an absolute key to life, my friend. If you first use your body the way you would if you felt confident, you're going to prime confidence. Your nervous system has confidence, or certainty, which is a synonym, saved. It's something that you can access. Once you've experienced any emotion, it's in there, and you're going to be able to access it over and over again with the right tools. The ones you want, you can prime them. So what can you do? I mean, there's a lot of different things, but we've all seen, or maybe you've seen Conor McGregor, one of the most famous UFC fighters in the world, walk through the octagon with his arms swinging like that. Now, obviously, that's not a very socially digestible way of walking around in public. You have to have ways to change your physiology in private, but also in public. So Gunther Schmidt, that psychologist in Germany, he says, how you going, that's how it's going. You know, we're asking people, how's it going? Well, how I'm going, that's how it's going. And he had a big presentation about it. But the idea is, if I walk slightly differently, a 2-millimeter change in the way I walk, my shoulders, my smile, little bit of bounciness, you will not be able to not feel better after a couple of minutes of this. It's hypnosis. What I would invite you to understand is that you are always putting yourself in a trance. You're always putting yourself in some sort of a hypnosis. Hypnosis doesn't mean be a chicken, right? On stage. That's nonsense. That's not what it is. But it is accessing, consciously or unconsciously, an empowering, a resourceful, or a disempowering, unresourceful mental and emotional state. And I would like you to obviously get the experience of having an amazing woman by your side. Now, that's not just it. I also want you to be able to enjoy the process and enjoy life much more. Because what's life about? Yeah, obviously, if you wake up with an amazing woman by your side, you make love in the morning, you make love in the evening, she loves you, she has amazing values, you're raising kids together, maybe you already have kids, you're traveling through the world, she has a lot of appreciation, she's kind, she's nurturing. It's very easy to feel great. But you want to be able to have these tools so you can access them in whatever scenario, so you can prime certainty and confidence whenever, wherever you need to, because that's your main job in this world as a man, to create a state of certainty when there is none. So, changing the way you walk, changing the way you breathe. Wim Hof has introduced certain breathing patterns. Andrew Huberman introduced the physiological sigh, where you inhale to 90% of your lung capacity, another 10%, and then you exhale slowly. I'll demonstrate. Go ahead and do it with me, by the way. You inhale to 90% of your ability, and another 10%, inflate again, and now you exhale slowly. It is the fastest proven way to activate the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which relaxes you. It digests. Relax and digest. It reduces cortisol. It allows you to go from constant fear detection mode into a state of nice, calm relaxation. You'll be able to access the prefrontal cortex. You'll be able to engage in lateral thinking much better if your brain is not just in constant threat detection mode and powered by fear and adrenaline. Which is what happens essentially when you're on a date with a woman that you really don't want to lose because you're coming from scarcity, because you have not yet created abundance for yourself, because you don't even have one quality date available to yourself per week, because you're not using dating apps, you're not approaching in person, you're not using Instagram. If you had that, well, that would also help. But when you're then on a date, you don't want to lose her. So the old ancient part of your brain kicks in and fear comes. And there's nothing wrong with there being a little bit of fear and excitement present, but you want to reduce it to a maximum so you can be your most relaxed and attractive and authentic self. So breathing, the way you're walking, your shoulders. There's something called EMDR therapy. That's one of the very few proven ways to actually reduce trauma in the brain. They used to do it with soldiers who went to war, who saw their buddy's brain got blown out, so they had real simulation in the brain, couldn't sleep, PTSD, where they look from one side to the other. You want to do that under professional supervision, obviously, but it is a super effective tool to reduce cortisol and to reduce trauma, to heal PTSD. There's tons of ways. That also starts with a physiological change. Another way to super simply change how you feel is using your voice. You ever sing and you feel great? It's impossible for you to sing and speak with a degree of certainty and then have that not prime certainty. The way you speak, whether that's loud or quiet. By the way, part of the reason I'm so loud is because it's -6, -10 degrees here in Norway, and there's a lot of wind, and I'm trying to not have too much wind be caught in the microphone, in case you're wondering why I'm yelling so much. So you have the best possible sound, and also because I'm more loud in nature. But even if you're very calm and you speak very quietly, I can speak quietly and be a little bit uncertain. Oh yeah, so you like that, and you start justifying yourself for little shit that you shouldn't justify yourself for. Or you speak calm and quiet, but you still have absolute conviction in your speech. That is something you can train. Speaking with certainty is not just a result of confidence, it also makes you more confident. How you're going is how it's going. There's a million more tools that you could use. Power posing, putting your hands up in the air, reduce cortisol by 20%, testosterone goes up by 20%, jumping up and down, going to the gym. These are physiological things. There's a lot more. These are just a couple examples. If you change the way you use your body, you prime certainty from within. The next thing you can do to turn confidence on wherever you need to is to change what you focus on. Tony Robbins says we don't experience life, we experience the life we focus on. It's true, right? You can have a beautifully loving relationship, a healthy body, not be dying in war, and still find something to complain about. For example, the fact that they gave me soy milk in Starbucks instead of almond milk, and I really prefer almond milk because it has a few less calories. We can find something to complain about always. Now, what produces stress within us is focusing on something we can't control. An additional side tangent that may be very useful to you. Jeff Bezos said this many years ago. If you feel stressed, if you feel anxiety or fear, in other words, you are either not doing something that you should be doing, there's something that you have control over that you're not acting on, or you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Most of the time, if you're stressed, if it's not for a physiological reason, or your needs being met, for example, your need for love and connection, it is you not doing something that you should be doing, or you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. But outside of that, it's you focusing on something that is outside of your control. One of the worst questions you can ever ask yourself is, what if? What if she rejects me? What if I bust too quickly? What if she leaves me? What if she makes love to my much better, taller looking friend instead of me? Nah, what do I do then? What if immediately primes a lack of certainty from within? It immediately creates anxiety. So how do you direct your focus? You direct your focus by asking questions. If you think about a problem right now, something that produced a little bit of stress within you. Think about it. Real quick. You got it? Okay, amazing. Think about that. Now, ask yourself in this very moment, what can I control? What can I control about the situation? What can I do today or this week to move a little bit closer, maybe not to finally solving it, but to move closer to having it handled, to make progress towards the solution of it? What can I control right now? Come up with one or two things real quick right now. What can I do? And now, one of the other most important questions you can ask in personal development is what else? What else can I do? What else can I do? Because sometimes our brain gets lazy. Oh, I've exhausted all of the resources. I've already done everything. Really? Really? If you had tried everything, you'd have the results. So ask yourself, demand an answer. What else can I do? I will demand an answer. I'm not going to hope that my brain is going to give it to me. I demand it because I'm in charge. I demand a fucking answer to this problem. So I shall have it. What else can I do? Now, if you ask yourself, what can I focus on? What else can I do? What else can I do? You all of a sudden come up with options and you regain a sense of control. But control is always imaginary. Obviously, there are external stressors. Of course, nobody denies that. You're not supposed to just live in a world of make-believe. You're obviously supposed to live in objective reality, and certain things are going to stress you. Like, for example, her not texting back. Well, that doesn't really have to stress you if you have a process and a system that's applying you with enough quality dates and actually knowing how to text, right? So there's ways to make sure that you have competence, which is one of the other things we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. But obviously there's going to be external stressors. But that's not what ultimately produces a state of fear or anxiety or a lack of confidence within you. It's what you focus on. What can I control? Well, when I'm on a date, by the way, this is one of the most important mindsets you could ever have on a date, which is, if this is meant to be, there's nothing in the world that I can do to mess this up. And if this is not meant to be, there's nothing in the world that I can do to make it work. Let that sink in. Think about a woman you're attracted to, somebody you've been attracted to in the past, or somebody you're currently dating, and you probably already know it's not going to work out because you're really not compatible with somebody. And say this to yourself. If this is meant to be, there's nothing in the world that I can do to mess this up. And if this is not meant to be, there's nothing in the world that I can do to make it work. Immediately, there's a change in your experience, and that's what I want for you. Competence is an experience, and we can prime our experience. That's what I want for you. I want you to regain a sense of control over your mental and your emotional state and the experiences you have internally. Because it's not the outside that dictates it. Yeah, it's an influence, of course, massively so. You should design a life that makes you happy. You should, of course, have a really hot woman in your life that you love, who's intellectually stimulating, who has an amazing personality and your values. Of course you should have that. That's easy. Apply for a free call if you want me to help you with that. That's easy. Watch some of the free videos. That's easy. But you also want to be able to generate confidence and satisfaction from within. You know how they say, you should learn to be okay by yourself, which is one of the biggest lies ever, by the way. Let me hit on this for a second. Because what I'm about to tell you, slight tangent, I'm going to go back to it, but trust me, you need to hear this. I've worked with a lot of 7, 8, 9-figure and more business owners. Men who are doing really well in their career or their business. And most of them do not spend enough time with quality male friends. Society tells you, you should learn to be okay by yourself. That's a lie. You do not need to learn to be okay by yourself. Men suffer because of this. Men kill themselves because they've been taught by society that they should learn to be okay by themselves. We have a need for love and connection. And the greatest source of unhappiness, depression, anxiety, and addiction in this world is a lack of quality social contact. You need way more time with quality male friends than you've been taught. You do not need to learn to be okay by yourself. Yes, you need to be okay with the actions you take and then be at peace with yourself. Yes, but you need way more social contact than you realize. Oh, I've been feeling a little bit down. Actually, I have 3 guys in my coaching program right now, all crushing it, their careers from different countries, one from the US, one from Canada, one from Latin America. They all met up in Miami right now because I connected them. And with every single one of them, I had a conversation over the last month where they were like, you know what, I'm feeling a little down. Yeah, how much time have you spent with quality male friends over the last week? Well, maybe 1 or 2 hours. No shit. And then they're all in Miami. We're doing a live call, a coaching call with the clients. The three of them are together having a great time. I'm like, how do you feel now? How low is your dopamine now? Not that low, is it? Because you have a need for love and connection that must be met. And by the way, if your need for love and connection is met, then that feeds into your levels of confidence as well. Spend more time with quality male friends. Now, back to focus. If you learn to control your focus, and it's just a habit, there's nothing wrong with you. You've just conditioned yourself to focus on what's wrong. And then that produces anger, fear, or sadness, or depression inside of you. Ask yourself right now, who loves me? Who do I love? Who was there for me in my life without expecting anything in return? Who really loved me in my life? Feel that. If you're not driving, close your eyes. Who really loves me? Who do I love? Imagine yourself just hugging that person right now. And don't just think it. See it, feel it, be there. Does that not immediately produce a change in state? You have that available to yourself at all times. The third source of confidence is how you speak to yourself, your inner dialogue. The most important skill in dating and in life in general is to have an unreasonably positive relationship with yourself. Almost delusional optimism. Now, you do want to be grounded in objective reality and take feedback and realize, I suck here, this is a problem that I need to fix. Not pretend that a skill deficiency in a certain area doesn't exist. Of course not. But you must refuse, as Nathaniel Branden says in The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, which is a genius book, by the way, everybody should have read. You must refuse to live in an adversarial relationship with yourself. You have to refuse to live in an adversarial relationship with yourself. You have to be your own biggest fan. If you're not going to cheer yourself on, who else will? And it's really a habit. It's not enough to have heard it. It's not about stupid positivity, but about actually uttering positive and empowering sounds in your head to yourself. When you did something great, you give yourself a little credit. You say, hey, that was amazing. That was awesome. That was sick. That was awesome. After I'm going to finish this video, you're like, wow, that was amazing. And then there'll be a time for critical reflection and analysis. Oh, this is where I could have brought an analogy in better. I will analyze it extremely critically, way more critically than any of you ever could. At the same time, I'm also going to be like, wow, we're in Norway. It's minus 10 degrees. This is a beautiful experience in and of itself. This was awesome. This was sick. Because you can only build on success. If you don't celebrate the success, at least with 1 or 2 words of positive reinforcement in your head, then you're not going to be motivated to do it again. So, what happens when something doesn't go good, when she doesn't text you back, or you go on a date and you thought it went great and it didn't? Yeah, you have blind spots in communication that you need to fix. I can help you with that if you want me to. But something happens. What then? Do you focus on all the things you don't have, or the fact that you have a healthy body, that you're not dying of cancer right now, that you're not dying in war right now, that there's 15 million women in the US in your age bracket alone? Can you find one? You only need one, buddy. Oh, there's no good women left. 15 million women in the US in your age bracket alone. And you're telling me you can't find somebody? Yeah, right. You're lazy. That's all it is. And you don't want to get hurt. You don't want to get disappointed. That's fine. But if you want the outcome of a quality relationship, which is extremely unusual, most men don't have it. Just being in a relationship doesn't count, by the way, because there's plenty of men who are in relationships with women who aren't right for them. Do you want a woman who you're physically attracted to? Amazing personality, amazing values, intellectually stimulating. That's an outcome very, very few men have. And you're entitled. You think it should just come to you without putting in work. Yeah, it requires work. You got to do it. But you're only going to be able to take the steps necessary if you can discipline your disappointment. If you don't overinvest too quickly, or then you get attached for 3 or 6 months, or a year and a half, and then you realize, oh, wasted, we were never compatible to begin with, you should have screened a little bit quicker. And then you're disappointed, then you delete the apps, you're like, oh, this is a waste of time. Ever had this? You go on a date that's really bad, you have no success, you're like, what a waste of time this is. Let me just go to the gym, let me just work, focus on business, let me just focus on myself. That's just an excuse for you not having figured it out. Massive action is the cure-all. What are you going to do? Not figure it out? It won't happen by itself. But again, in order to be able to take the actions for a couple of months, to find the right woman, which, by the way, is a finite game. You only have to find one and then you're done. Imagine you only had to go to the gym for 6 months and then be in shape for the rest of your life. That's the deal you take. Imagine you would only ever have to close one deal for the rest of your life. Fucking great, isn't it? Yeah, you take that. But for some reason, when it comes to finding the most important person in your life, yeah, I'll find the right one eventually. She'll come to me. I don't have the time. You're lying to yourself. They're all excuses. Dating apps don't work. That's a lie. Works for plenty of men. Why not for you? I've done this with 7, 8, 9-figure business owners. And you don't have the time? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And by the way, not just business owners. Some guys are school principals, finance professionals, software engineers, whatever, police officers, right? Usually people who have a little bit more discretionary income because the coaching is very, very expensive. So, but that's why I'm also producing free resources here. This video has practical tips, but you won't even act on it if you don't reward yourself in your own mind, if you tell yourself a disempowering story, and you don't even realize how negative your own inner dialogue is, how disempowering your own inner dialogue is on a day-to-day basis, how much you're robbing yourself of energy. And then you wonder why she lost interest. Where's your energy when you get to the date? And it doesn't have to be as hyperactive as I am. I understand that. Not everybody needs to be a yelling ginger on the date. And by the way, that's not how I am on dates. This is when I'm talking about a subject that's very dear to my heart. You can do it in your own way. You can be calm with high levels of energy or calm and have low levels of energy. That is the first source of confidence. The second source of confidence is competence. Competence leads to confidence. Confidence leads to competence. In psychology, they call that the confidence-competence loop. The more competent I become, the better you got in your job, in your business, the more you've gathered positive reference experiences, the more you had a system and a process that works, that's reliable, the more confident you became. And then the more confident you become, the more you actually enjoy, the more competent you become and confident. No, I lost it. The more confident you become, the more confident you become. And then the more confident you're in it, the more you actually enjoy the activity. And guess what? If you enjoy it more, you put more work in, and your skill goes up and up. So, you need to learn the skill. There is a skill to dating apps. There is a skill to building a good Instagram profile. There is a skill to texting, to creating attraction, to storytelling, to approaches. This whole thing is a skill set. It's free resource. I have 400 videos on my YouTube channel for free, just like these, that you can watch. If you want personal help, there's a coaching program. The resources are there. You're not in a relationship for a lack of resources, my friend. It's because you haven't made a decision. You haven't decided that something must change. And only you can. You're allowed to be single for the next year, 2, 3, 5. Totally cool. You could be single. And you will live. You won't die. But do you want somebody who gives you love in the morning? And I'm not just talking about physical intimacy. Real, deep connection, love, happiness, fulfillment, purpose. Do you want somebody who says, I'm so proud of you for how hard you're working? Do you want somebody to build a family with? Or just travel the world with? Share life with? Give you a renewed sense of purpose? Somebody that you can make even happier than she makes you? Or hopefully equally? If you want that, it's available to you. But a skill set is required. Now, you develop that skill set, you know how to lead an interaction, how to create attraction. That instantly increases confidence. So, in any area in your life, there's a competence. The better you get at the competence, the more confidence goes up. The third source of confidence is osmosis. I touched on that earlier. The people you're around. You know when you're around people who are negative, you become more negative? You know when you're around people who are happy, you become happier? People who are funny, you become funnier. If you're around people who are truly confident in this area, and even just in a virtual environment online, some of that confidence rubs off. We all influence each other. So please choose extremely wisely who you spend time with, because that is indeed how you become. Most of your financial success depends on the people you're around or the people you've met, the introductions you've gotten. The same is true for your confidence. It's almost impossible to have the highest levels of authentic, not fake, not lines, not nonsense, mature, masculine, authentic confidence. It's impossible to have that if you don't have other men in your life who exhibit that. You need a group of quality men. You want a global network, but probably if you live in the US, for example, you have quality male friends, but they're spread across the US. How many of them do you actually see on a weekly basis? You need to have virtually people that you can learn from, for example, but you also need a local network of quality male friends. David, where do I find them? Jiu-jitsu, polo, golf, the gym, anywhere, the sauna. Just start talking to people. The thing is, if you're an achiever, if you're a man who has a high work ethic, well, in work ethic, sometimes we don't really want to talk to people, right? We just keep going and going, right? Very goal-driven. This is where I'm going. Ignore everything else. And that's amazing. But the problem with it is that we miss out on beautiful connections. We miss out on friendships. So here's my encouragement. Start talking to people in your social life. Start talking to people. That's all it takes. Anything good you have in your life right now came as a result of you talking to somebody. Your job, your business, a past relationship, a current relationship, opportunities, anything came as a result of you talking to somebody. So what makes you think that you can just stop talking to people? Even just for the fact that you want to feel at home in the world. I'm probably one of the most beautiful places in the world right now. And yet, if I was here by myself, it wouldn't be half as much fun. You want to have the right woman by your side, obviously, but also quality male friends. It's not either or. It's not a false dichotomy. You want both. You want to spend time with quality male friends. You need that. Men need a tribe. And you want to have a loving relationship to a woman by your side, obviously, of course. It is completely underestimated how important that is. Johann Hari, I believe he wrote a book called The Real Causes for Anxiety and Depression. And one of the number one reasons why people feel shit is because of a lack of quality social contact. And you know it's true. Think about the last time you spent time with a good friend. Did you have to do anything special to feel great? Or could you just talk, have a drink, smoke a cigar? Ideally no alcohol. I don't drink alcohol. I encourage you to not drink either, or at least very little. Do jiu-jitsu. Go fishing. Watch football. Just by having them there, your brain changes its neurochemistry. Because remember, there was a time hundreds of thousands of years ago when we men lived in tribes of 50 to 100, 200 people. We always had a tribe around us, 24/7, all the time. And then what happened to the ones who got sent into exile, maybe because they misbehaved or for whatever other reason? Maybe they hit on the female of the alpha male and then they got hit in the head or sent into exile. Well, those who were sent in exile, they learned very quickly that you get attacked by other tribes if you don't have your tribe to protect you. You get eaten by animals. You don't have other men to go and hunt elephants with, or gazelles, or whatever people were eating back in the day. And you lose the chance to pass on your genes to the female members of the tribe. So even if you don't die, your genetic legacy dies. That's, by the way, where approach anxiety comes from. So we realize that if we're too long away from the tribe, our very survival is threatened. So your brain makes you feel bad. The fourth source of confidence is beliefs. What do you believe about yourself? What's the story you tell yourself about women and dating and yourself? There are certain unconscious assumptions that you have that you never dare to question, that you never think to question. And then they govern your actions. Because keep in mind, ultimately what's going to get you a quality relationship is only the actions you take. It's not magic. But what allows you to take the right actions is your thoughts and your emotions, mindset. And some of those thoughts are conscious, some of them are unconscious. If you don't believe dating apps work, you're not going to try it, you won't get the dates. If you didn't know that Instagram is a possibility to get several quality dates a week, but just sending direct messages, you won't do it. If you think that, well, I would never even be able to approach in person because I don't have the time, and you don't know how to do it effectively, well, you won't do it. If you think women don't like gingers, you won't even put yourself out there to get a few rejections, but also enough wins to get a positive reference experience to realize, oh, it actually works. There's certain assumptions that you have that are stopping you right now from taking the actions necessary. Oh, I don't have time. Bullshit. Time is emotion. You have 112 waking hours available to yourself every single week if you sleep 8 hours a night. Dating takes 5 to 8. Can you invest 4 to 7% of your waking time into this? If you can't, this is just not important enough for you. Then you should maybe completely pause and make love to yourself for a year. Really, just go gym and work. If you're not willing to invest a couple hours a week into this, then this obviously is not a priority. So audit the beliefs you have. Tell yourself an empowering story, and the best story to tell yourself is the truth. One very powerful exercise that's going to motivate you to take the right actions and put yourself out there is the 20 reasons exercise. It's very powerful. Today, do this. An action item you can put into practice immediately. You write a list of 20 reasons as to why you are not just a, but the best option for the right woman. Not for all women in the world, but a woman that you're truly compatible with. Why are you the best option in the world for her? I'm great at making love. I provide financial stability. I'm really kind. I'm really caring. I'm really going to get on well with the family. I'm a great cook. Whatever. Write down minimum 20 reasons, not 17. Minimum 20. And then you review that, and then you realize, wow, it brings so much to the table. And then that grounds you in your worth. Not your worth in your soul, but the worth of you in the marketplace. Because Tony Robbins says that we all have the same worth as our soul, spiritually speaking. But in the marketplace, in the dating marketplace, for example, we have greatly different value. But you probably already have a lot to offer. But you won't communicate in the most compelling way. You won't communicate with the most certainty. You won't take the right actions if you're not even convinced of what you have to offer. So, put these things into practice. Understand that confidence is something you can create through managing your mental and your emotional state, just turning it on, getting a confidence, being around other men, virtually or in person, have those levels of confidence, and by auditing your beliefs and replacing what's been hindering you with the truth. If you want me to help you personally find the right girlfriend or wife, click the link below, apply for a free initial consultation. Looking forward to speaking with you soon. Take care.